Welcome to the Design Build Institute of America's Design Build Delivers podcast, sponsored by US CAD Oven Zero Company. I'm Kim Wright at DBIA's national headquarters. It's easy to be optimistic about the future of design build these days. Teams continue to deliver impressive results nationwide, and that growth will only continue in this new infrastructure era. But today's podcast will give you yet another reason to celebrate as we talk to the next generation of design build team members. Today, you'll meet DBIA's National Design Build Student Competition champions from the University of Colorado Boulder. This is an impressive group of students who already get it. They're embracing collaboration and innovation, and I promise you'll enjoy hearing them talk about their experiences. So let's meet team members Spencer Chuck, Evan Dix, Kai Reimers, Liam Atkinson, and Haley Hansen.
So, was this your team's first time competing in the student design build team competition?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, none of us had done this before.
So this is your first time and you won? Talent.
I believe our advisor was the first time advising as well.
Oh, wow. So this is just like sheer raw talent you brought to the stage. That's amazing.
Yeah, I would say, so the School of CU has done this before. And so we had some, input from other members of the faculty that have, members of DBIA that have gone to this conference, past students that have participated in this, but all of us are first timers. And as Kai said, our faculty advisor, a first timer as well. So it was learning experience.
Nice. So were there any particular challenges going into this for the first time? Like, was there anything you guys struggle with or were unsure about preparing for this?
I would say the biggest thing was receiving an RFQ. That's definitely not something that we had touched on in our coursework. And so seeing that real world aspect was really, I think, the best learning experience, getting that vocabulary down, learning the process, and then moving into the RFP. That for me personally was the biggest learning experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It was just receiving the RFQ and the RFP and just really understanding what was expected from us and what we needed to get done and what we needed to provide, because we're very green in all of this. But I mean, Evan was a great lead in this and he had some good previous knowledge, so that definitely helped us in terms of what we needed to deliver.
I would say there's also an aspect of, with the Dennis, who's running the competition, told us up front, make sure you read through all the documents and answer the questions that are being asked and address what you're supposed to address. It sounds like obvious advice, but as we went through it, it seemed like every time we went through the document, especially when it came within, a couple hours of getting the deliverable, we found something new that we hadn't accounted for, and there's something that we need to address. So there was a lot of iterations of going through the document to make sure that we're addressing exactly what's being asked of us. So that was definitely, like Spencer and Haley said, good learning experience just going through the RFQ and the RFP to figure out everything that they're asking us to do.
Yeah, I just agree with what they said. None of us had really seen, save Evan, an RFQ, RFP, or ever done anything like that in any of our coursework. So yeah, that was just a huge learning experience for all of us, and we managed through it, obviously, but it was not the easiest thing ever.
Can you tell me about your team and how it all came together?
Yeah, I mean, we were our professor, our faculty advisor, reached out to pretty much each of us individually and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in being a part of this team?" And pretty much most of us said yes. Spencer brought on Kai, and I mean, we were talking about it yesterday that, Spencer really did us well with bringing Kai on because he's absolutely amazing in Revit. And I mean, I don't know, this team was just great to work with, so.
You might say that we were hand selected by our faculty advisor. And there might have been a little bit of, is this something that you'd be interested in? Oh yeah, I might be interested. Great, you're on.
Yeah.
And then we felt like, didn't have an option from there, but it was a good forcing function. I think all of us are very glad that we ended up doing this. Despite the long hours that we put into it, It's obviously very rewarding to come away being national champions, but even if we wouldn't have won, we got a lot out of the process.
Yeah, touching on that hand-selected section. So Morris, our faculty advisor, selected all of them, and then I was offered, a position on the team late. And my initial response was to decline just because of the resumes of all of these people that I was sent. I was almost over. I think my initial response was, that sounds great, but these guys are all like top notch. And I am very glad that I did, make the decision to join the team, as it paid off for all of us.
Oh, definitely. It seems like you guys collaborate well together, just even being like hand select. I don't know if you guys were like friends before or what have you, but that's kind of a key aspect of design build, getting all these different kinds of people to collaborate together. So can I ask you guys, what was it like kind of meeting each other and getting acquainted and forming a winning team?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So in our proposal, we talked a lot about the big room co-location and collaboration. And we first met, appropriately so, over food, I believe. It was sponsored by our dean, Professor Molinar. And that was a great intro to the team. And you're exactly right when you say that the team, if you have a good team, everything else follows, right? But we were provided a lot of convenience in the form of Zoom. We had a lot of opportunities to collaborate remotely. Some of those technologies coming out of COVID during the conference this morning really enabled us to thrive. And we're students. We have busy schedules, 18 credit hours. Everyone here has a lot of obligations. So having those resources at our disposal really allowed us to be successful.
Yeah. And I mean, we would get together when we felt it was necessary. I mean, these two were in a computer lab together for 21 hours?
21 hours.
Yeah, working together. So, I mean, even though we didn't meet in person a ton before we actually arrived to the competition, we worked together as much as we could and as frequently as we needed. And that was the big thing too, is if one of us had an issue or didn't understand something, we knew we could reach out to each other and be like, hey, can we meet? Can we brainstorm? Can we try to figure this out together? And I mean, we talked in our presentation about how collaboration, working together, was a big part of, our hypothetical project and our team, but that's really what we did. We really found that collaboration was the best way to get through this, and we delegated because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's you got to delegate in this industry. But the big thing is remembering you are a team and you can delegate together.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things was, it's like any group project where you come together with people that you don't really know. It's a little bit awkward at first, and you're trying to feel each other out, kind of thing. But we came together everyone on this team was really willing to do whatever was needed of them. So that was a really pleasant surprise. It's nice to work in a group. We were talking about it last night, where you don't really have a weak link. There's nobody that is really dragging, or everyone kind of talks about behind their back, which we joked about being the one that mentioned that. Maybe it's me. But now we especially, since we've been here at this conference over the last couple of days, have really bonded as a team, and gotten to enjoy spending time with each other. So it's a testament to the amount of work that we put together. Kind of brings you together, rising to such a challenge like that. And I, really appreciated all these guys. I don't think I'm quite as busy as the four of these guys, but they took it on anyway. And so, like I said, everybody's willing to do whatever it took, and that, makes you very easy to get along with if you're always willing to go along.
Circling back around to your actual project, can you tell us a bit about it and just give me the whole rundown of it, maybe from 1,000-foot level?
So I'll start. So basically, we were tasked with designing and coming up with a management plan for a 8,800 square foot student health services center at Washington and Lee University in Virginia. So first step was we kind of came up with our resumes that shows relevant experience and past projects that we'd work on that are very similar in scope. So we kind of searched for those. And then our design solution came about through a lot of we had some consultation interviews and everything, but that 21-hour stint in the computer lab between these two guys, they did a lot of floor plan iterations to really figure out how everything was supposed to fit together and meet the program requirements. And then all the other pieces, we looked through the design build manual of practice and some other source documents to just figure out how, if we were the perfect design build team, how would we be approaching this? And we tried to treat it from that lens and let that come out in our statement of qualifications and our proposal, why what we're doing is the industry best, and adopt those practices because, we're not actually the company. We can say we do all the best things. So it's really just finding what those best things were and then figuring out how they all go together.
Are you interested in sustainable design and construction practices but concerned about profitability? US CAD, a N0 company, helps forward-thinking ENR top-ranked AEC firms mitigate risk and drive profit through digitalization using Autodesk AEC technology. To learn more, contact uscad.com/DBIA for a free 30-minute consultation. That's uscad.com/DBIA.
So just circling back to this COVID-19 environment and just how you guys had to adapt to that, were there any particular challenges that you faced this time responding to this project that had to do with COVID-19?
I don't really think so. I mean, we had Zoom at our disposal, and I mean, we weren't meeting meeting on Zoom because of COVID, but due to COVID-19, we were introduced to the system, and it made it a lot easier because we are really busy. It is hard to find a time for all of us to actually meet together in person, so being able to use Zoom, it really honestly made it easier for us to meet. And so I wouldn't necessarily say there was any difficulties in relation to COVID-19 within this group.
Not so much as a challenge, but more of an opportunity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with that it helped because it's kind of like we're just so much more comfortable with being, text someone like, hey, I got this question, and then it's just an easy hop on Zoom, let's figure it out. Whereas pre-COVID, I wouldn't have been oh, I'm just going to send you 9 digits and you're going to understand that that's the Zoom code. That wouldn't be the, realistic year and a half, 2 years ago. And with everyone just being so ready and set up for Zoom, I do think that really did help.
So going forward, in your future projects, do you think that maybe because everyone is more used to virtual communication, that it might be more of an asset now since people know how to use it? I know you guys are seasoned because you probably have to do classes on Zoom from time to time, but do you think it will impact your future work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that COVID forced us to adapt, but now it's a skill. And even now, as we're moving through the pandemic, there's still classes that are still online while you're still having in person. And so I think in our careers, we'll be able to use that skill of adaptation. If somebody can't make their flight or whatever it may be, you can still get the work done that you need to get done regardless of circumstance.
So what was your presentation experience like? How are you guys feeling? What were your takeaways from that?
I mean, with the beginning of the presentation, or not the actual presentation itself, but we assumed that we would just be presenting in front of the panel of judges and no other audience. But then our faculty advisor made a few calls and he was like, oh no, there could be a decent amount of people there. And I mean, I definitely saw a few mouths drop at that. They were a little nervous, but I mean, we practiced and we got together, and overall, I think we did great in the presentation. And I mean, there definitely weren't as many people as we thought there could be, which I think was also nice. But I mean, it all came down to practice and just remembering we're all in this together. We're doing it together.
I would say for me personally, it's not so much the nerves of public speaking, it's conveying the amount of time and the effort we put in, really making sure that got across. And so that's where the nerves came from me, but it was enjoyable to see the panel and receive their questions and just really run them through what we had brought them. And it was really a great experience to be able to communicate that.
And one of the challenges, with our proposal in response to the RFP was, how do we address contract language, in a presentation where you're supposed to be, forming a partnership between your client and the team. And there's some tough competition this year. It was a good, tight, competitive race, and we were glad to participate in that.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with what Spencer said wholeheartedly, because we put hours,
21 hours in the computer lab.
at least, probably. We were all triple digits in hours put in, I would assume. And it just not being able to say, like, look at this and this is how much work I put in, but really having to push that point across without actually saying anything about what work you have done. And by just saying this is our solution and really having to get that point across that we did all that work. I think Spencer, hit the nail on the head with that. That is definitely, I hadn't even considered that, but that is, one of the things that might have made me, most concerned about the presentation, just not wanting them to think like we're half-assing it over here. We're doing our best, and we put in loads of work, and we really wanted to make sure that they understood that.
Yeah, and that we thought everything that we possibly could think through. We put a lot of thought and effort into it. So
getting through like safety, design, management, quality, sustainability, all of those points in 40 minutes. It was difficult.
Yeah, and everything's changing, right? So we don't have, months to prepare for this, and we're always preparing for that presentation. Case in point, we were selected third in the presentation line, so we presented third later in the afternoon, and Evan and I we went up to the room and said, where are our gaps, right? And so we looked at our panel, and sure enough, there's an MEP specialist, and we're like, oh man, like we didn't include enough detail on MEP. Like, let's do some quick last minute research, and always being self-aware. Where could I be stronger in the presentation? Where are some of those gaps?
What were some of the key takeaways that you had from your competition experience? And what were some of the best things that you've learned while preparing and actually competing?
I mean, I guess the biggest thing that we learned is that, so we saw the University of Florida's design, and we were like, wow, that looks amazing. And we were just kind of in awe because they had a brochure and everything. And,
matching site, matching company shirts.
Yeah, they looked like a real company, and we were definitely very intimidated by them. But what we came to, we realized that their resources were a lot greater for this competition than ours. And, hats off to them. That's amazing that they have a class designated to DBIA. But we just learned, and just talking to other students and other teams, is how they got involved and how their school or programs are ran with DBIA. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting. Just how each different school kind of has a separate way of attacking the DBIA student competition. And it was interesting to see, what different schools did in preparation for this.
Yeah, I would say, with the project specifically, again, going through responding to the RFQ and the RFP, we certainly learned a lot in terms of the integration of best practices. And, your coursework, you hear things about, they definitely always touch on the alternative delivery methods, and you get pretty familiar with design build. I've done a few amount of looking at academic papers that compare the different delivery methods and all that sort of thing, and you hear about the different best practices that are out there. But then actually thinking through the process of putting all of those things together and how it actually go. If we were doing this project, that was a big learning experience, because it's not just, oh, well, let's pick from the list of best practices and just say we do all these things. You have to think about how that would integrate together and how you would actually do it. Haley's not going to be the person that is simultaneously, doing all the estimating, but also managing the project, but also out there, doing the quality assurance, like just little things like that. It takes different people to do those things. And again, thinking through that was probably the biggest thing that I learned for sure. And I would say probably the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, we wanted to apply things realistically, because if we couldn't back up our reasonings and our plans to the judges, then it just doesn't make sense and it doesn't work. So we really did think everything through when it came to putting it into our proposals and our presentations.
I know that a key component of the value of this competition for students like yourselves is the opportunity to connect with industry leaders and get some real world experience, as you guys have mentioned, with Design Build. Did you all make any important connections here, or did you guys meet anyone that was particularly important?
So yesterday was a big day for us.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a big day.
It really started with the expo in the evening. We kind of spent the morning preparing for our presentation, and we interacted with the other teams just a little bit, and kind of exchanged pleasantries and whatnot. But at the expo, we really went around in the afternoon, the 4:15 to 6:15 session, and started talking to some of the companies. These guys were hanging out at the PCL table for a little while, and Liam decided he's going to go ahead and work for Whiting Turner, and just things like, so we started to establish those connections. But we also at the expo met a bunch of the other student groups, even some of the ones that weren't doing the shortlisted presentation, but they were the finalists. And just it started off as we're talking about the proposal, but then it just elevated to what's your general civil engineering program like at your school, and just talking about student experiences. And I mean, anytime you come to a conference, that's one of the best things about it, is just to make the connections, right? And have those relationships that you establish, both for companies and then your peers as well, so that maybe we'll run into them a couple years down the road, and maybe we start working together, and that sort of thing. So we had a big day yesterday.
Yeah, that's great. You gotta always network across, up, down, all that. So that's great.
It has been a really eye-opening experience just to be around so many industry professionals, and just being able to kind of have that dialogue with them that you wouldn't really be able to have in any other instance as a student, unless you were interning for them. And I personally got a bunch of business cards. I got some business cards handed to me right after we won. Got a few connections on LinkedIn right after we won. It was really awesome just seeing how being here puts the name out there, and all of our names just got read off in front of a bunch of people that are important in the DBIA organization, which is just phenomenal to see, and really makes you feel very proud that hey, that's my name that they're reading in this national conference right now. I'm up on stage. It's awesome.
So just to broaden things out, what made you decide to get involved with Design Build in your coursework, or what interested you in Design Build?
For me personally, Kai and I are architectural engineering, and so we cover so much in our coursework. We don't necessarily pick a discipline right away. We cover HVAC, we cover structural, we cover all these different things. And so within Design Build, you have the ability to see all of that come together. And you're not, I wouldn't say limiting yourself, but you're not focusing in necessarily on one thing. If you want that broader perspective to see how the construction and the design side come together, it's a really great opportunity for us, particularly, put all that coursework together.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about Design Build, I've heard Design Bid Build, all of the different delivery methods I've heard of them, I've learned about them, but I've never really gotten the chance to apply it. And that's what interested me here, was just actually seeing how the delivery method works, and just putting my feet in the water and understanding how to do it. Because if I had gone into the industry and just been like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with Design Build, I could tell them the generic definition of it, how it kind of works, but I wouldn't have any background knowledge with it. And that's why I wanted to do it, so I could better understand, so I could learn and expand my knowledge in that sense. So
I might change that to say diving in head first compared to dipping
yes.
our feet in.
Yes, we did. We definitely dove head first. Yeah.
Or
Thank you.
stepping in.
Yeah. No, it was head first for sure. So yeah. It's all about experiences in the industry. It's just trying different things, finding what you like, what you don't like. And if you never try, then you'll never find out until, it's too late and you're stuck at a job that you hate. So if you have an opportunity, I always try my best to say yes and take it, because you never know what you're going to learn.
So what role do you guys think design build will play in the future of construction, and what do you think its impact will be on a broader scale?
People are finding a lot of success with design build. They're finding a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction in working through that process, rather than having an adversarial relationship between the designer, between the contractor, or the owner kind of mediating between. It's more partnership based. It's more collaboration based, and people like working in that environment. The advice that we got from Jeff this morning was basically be kind. Just be kind to people, and you'd be amazed at the results that brings on projects. I think it's great advice, and I think design build is one of the delivery methods that kind of promotes that behavior, just through the importance in establishing the collaboration and that sort of thing. It's hard to have a collaborative environment and be working with people, and have those professional relationships on a continuing basis if you're rude to people. So it kind of has that forcing function that you get to know people, and you can, really just be kind and have the process, work itself out and deliver successful projects.
Kind of going off of what Evan said, our generation, we've definitely learned to adapt and collaborate together, and working together in order to get through a situation. We learn to adapt and work together, which I think is, a big thing in design build. And so our generation going into the workforce, I think, is going to really amplify those aspects of working together and adapting, and just overall changing together, because we're coming in with some knowledge with it, and we've kind of been forced to learn how to adapt. But in the long run, I think it's going to overall help those who enter the design build industry.
What's next for you guys?
What's next for me is finishing up my research. I'm the grad student member of the team, so I got to get that done. But then I'm also Air Force active duty, so I'll end up continuing that career.
Yeah, for me personally, finishing up my undergrad and just getting into industry, I really want to just dive in and see where I fit in. I've been very fortunate to find a degree that I'm passionate about. Haven't really found something I don't like, so really want to see that transition into a career and just find exactly where I fit in.
Yeah, similar for me. I'm going to be finishing up my undergrad and then figuring out where I'm going to get my master's, maybe doing a little industry in between. Not entirely sure yet. We'll see where the cards fall.
Yeah, same thing. I'm going to finish my undergrad. This is my 4th year. So I'm excited to finish that and just get into the industry and learn as much as I possibly can. And, I want to go back and get my master's at some point. But right now I'm just anxious to get in and dive headfirst into it. So.
Yeah, exactly what Haley said. The learning doesn't stop at university. And, taking that dive into industry is going to be the next step. After this whole DBIA process, I really want to work on design build. Mm-hmm. Being part of it. Yeah. Isn't design build just the best delivery method?
Love it.
Yeah, so I want to be on a design build team, after this whole process. And, as engineering students in construction, working with architects and those other technical professionals is extremely rewarding.
So congratulations to the entire University of Colorado Boulder championship team. This year's national student competition is underway, so spread the word with your alma mater or any aspiring young design builders you might know. You can find details on our student competition page at dbia.org. And again, thank you to USCAD of N0 Company for their support of Design Build Delivers. Find out more at uscad.com/DBIA.